Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Liam Garrity, the Director of Hospitality for Frank Family Vineyards, and I hope you're all feeling pumped at home, pumped from a great Peloton ride this morning, and pumped to taste some great wine today and enjoy some fabulous, healthy food. 2021 for us at Frank Family Vineyards has been a year about embracing health and balance, and we're so excited to be welcoming so many of you from this morning's ride with Peloton and so many others from the Peloton community for today's incredible tasting. I'm joined by two of my favorite people to work with from Frank Family Vineyards. First, Chef Christina Mackamer, a chef that we've done so many of these wonderful virtual tastings with, who's going to be sharing with us today some of her tips on eating great food, but knowing that that food is well prepared in a healthy and honest manner. And then, of course, our general manager and winemaker today joining us as well, Todd Graff. Todd, great to see you. Cheers.
Cheers.
For those of you who did the ride this morning, we loved seeing your names on the leaderboard. I know Todd was there cranking along with those classic hits. Today's tasting, we'll be talking about the wines Brut Rosé, our Carneros Chardonnay, our Childs Valley Zinfandel, and our Napa Valley Cabernet. And as we taste and talk and taste, we're going to be talking about how these wines pair with the foods Chef Christina's making, how we can think about the food and wine choices that we're making at home. And of course, as always with our tastings, we love to hear from those of you watching at home. If you have any questions or thoughts about these wines that you'd like to share with Todd or Christina, please feel free to let us know in the chat section. Marissa McCann, Frank Family Vineyards Marketing Manager, is here with us today as well, monitoring that chat section, and she'll be sharing your questions with us live on air. As with our virtual tasting series, we'll be asking some trivia questions as well throughout the broadcast. So make sure you're paying attention to every little thing Christina and Todd say with us today. Chef, I'm really excited to see what it is you'll be preparing for us and what healthy choices you have that we can learn about today and make at home.
Thank you so much, Liam. If you read the Frank Family blog, you know that my three favorite ingredients are mayonnaise, butter, and Ritz crackers, and we're not going to use any of those today. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone, and you may have seen Todd earlier wearing his nice blue Brigard apron. He is also stepping outside of his comfort zone. Instead of a winemaker today, he's going to be my sous chef, so I'm really excited to have some help in the kitchen. We're going to be making two of my favorite recipes. So we're getting into bikini season, which is to me very frightening here in Napa Valley. But one thing I feel really good about when I'm outside, when I'm having happy hour, when I'm at the pool, is eating crudités. Crudités is French for raw vegetables, right? But it sounds a lot more exciting if you say it in French.
Trivia question.
That is a good trivia question, actually. So Todd and I are going to start building an excellent crudité platter. We're going to talk about some choices, and then we're going to move into an awesome stir-fry recipe. And I love this recipe because you can really make it your own. You could take a lot of choices with the vegetables, with the protein, and the secret sauce is so easy that Todd is actually going to make it for me today.
Is that a compliment?
It is a compliment.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. I mean, I trust you, right? You work with your
Remember,
hands.
I got the knife.
You do, so I have to be nice to you today, I guess. So what I love about this stir fry is it's really easy. It's gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, but not flavor-free, and it's going to be amazing with all of these wines. So I'm ready to hop right in. I'm thirsty, Todd.
Good.
What are we drinking first?
2015 Brut Rosé, sparkling wine. I hope you all have some wine in front of you. If it's ours, great. If you have something in the fridge, open it. Because we're going to be talking about all kinds of wines. And the Brut Rosé 2015 again. What makes Frank Family's sparkling wines, I think, at the elevation they are, is the time it takes to make these wines. So this is a 15. And it spent 4 years on the yeast, entourage, aging with that yeast, building some character, and getting some depth and body to it. And a typical reserve French champagne is 3 years plus, and our minimum is 3 years also, but this one happened to have 4 years on it. Pinot Noir, about 10% Chardonnay also in this. All Carneros fruit from Napa. Down in the coolest section of the Napa Valley, as we'll talk about with Chardonnay also. But anyway, classic traditional Methode Champenois sparkling wine, predominantly Pinot Noir, 4 years aging on the yeast.
Todd, when you're doing that blend, Pinot Noir and then Chardonnay being the other grape, what is it you're looking for Chardonnay to bring in? How does Chardonnay come in, and how do you choose that percentage? What do you want it to do to the Pinot Noir when you're blending?
Great question. So Pinot Noir is kind of like the muscle and the flesh of the wine, where Chardonnay is kind of like the bones. So you want that really good bone structure, good, and a backbone, gives it some acidity, some ageability, a little more ageability, and then you load this nice muscle body on top of those bones with the Pinot Noir.
It's a great way to think about it. Aroma-wise, I get almost like citrus tones from this. Would you say that?
It's funny. We did an actual blind tasting a month or so ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And where we were blindfolded, and we had to get, and I got more citrus when I wasn't looking at this than I do when I'm looking at the pretty color. My mind goes to strawberry and watermelon, but when I was blindfolded, I got a lot of citrus in this. And
so those citrus tones are coming from the Pinot Noir juice, or is the presence of Chardonnay kind of amplifying that tone a little bit?
It's only 10%, so I'm not. There's going to be definitely an addition to it, but I think it's the Pinot Noir.
Yeah, that's great.
It's got a great mousse.
What does that mean?
The cordon around. You want great fine bubbles coming up in your flute, and to have this nice ribbon of bubbles around there. And a lot of times, if you don't have that, sometimes it's just the glass too. If there's soapy or oily, it'll prevent the bubbles from forming. But this looks beautiful, and it gives those fine bubbles give that nice creaminess.
Yeah. Pairing wise, sparkling wines are, sometimes we kind of relegate them to the corner in terms of the dinner table because we're so used to drinking them on special occasions. But I think sparkling wines have a place at the table. I'm a huge fan of sparkling nightly at the table. Richer wines, all kinds of poultry, pork, like Our Lady Edith is 8 years entourage. So it spent 8 years with the... She's impatient with me. Sorry. And I can't multitask. I can't talk. Not with a knife, you can't. Yeah, I'd lose my fingers. So the Lady Edith, I think you can have really with pork, again, poultry of all sorts. Yeah. But I like it with food. Chef, I didn't mean to force you to take that cucumber away from Todd. Were you a little nervous about that?
I'm not nervous with Todd, but I will tell you, as a chef, if my hands aren't full, that I just don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. So I started working on our crudite platter here, and Todd's actually going to make this wonderful garnish. So I've got a couple of dips, and when it comes to crudite, I think that the way that you're seasoning it and what you're pairing it with is really key. So Todd, we have a bell pepper here, and we're going to use this as the vessel for the dip. So what I would like you to do, it doesn't quite sit up, as you see it falls over. So if you could make that flat on the bottom, cut the top off. As you know, there are some ribs and seeds. We'll remove that. And while you're doing that, we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what's going on over here. So when we're talking about doing crudités, we want to incorporate a lot of different items and a lot of different color. Color is really key for making that board pop. I chose to use this big, long board because, one, I love to have lots of room to spread out, but it also, the shape kind of tells a story. So when I'm plating, I want to think about that shape. If you're going to be using a round board, you may plate things in a round shape. With this, it's elongated. So I chose, instead of regular cauliflower, I'm using an orange cauliflower because I think it really pops on this board. So we wanted to follow the shape of that board in almost a serpentine way. And then I've got some amazing sugar snap peas, some broccoli. I'm separating them into different locations so that I have a little pop of color in each corner. And then, as you know, if you've tuned in, by the way, if you're a familiar face, Marissa is monitoring the chat, please say hi. If you saw me doing my cheese board, it's sort of a similar philosophy, and I was using a lot of amazing edible flowers. Here we're not using that, and in that place, we've got multicolored cherry tomatoes that I'm just gonna kind of layer in to add some interest and contrast. And then in the back here, so I guess as it's facing you, it's facing forward. We want to put all the tall things in the back and slope them gently forward. That way the presentation looks a little bit better. So in the back here, we've got a selection of carrots. Rather than just the orange, I'm using rainbow carrots today. So we've got some purple, yellow, white, orange. And again, that's just to add a little bit of character and interest. So in addition to this, I've got some English cucumber that I'm going to lay out. And then we're going to do our 2 dips. So I'm using a hummus. I was talking to Todd earlier, and when I make hummus at home, it takes 3 days. It's the Gordon Ramsay recipe. You've got to, you've got to soak your garbanzo beans, and then day 2 you cook them and let them sit in the broth overnight. And day 3 you actually make the hummus. We're gonna cheat today, guys. We're using a store-bought hummus, but in order to add a little bit of interest, I have some harissa. Harissa is a spicy chili paste that comes from Tunisia in northern Africa, and I'm just gonna spread some on the top of the hummus, not only because it looks good, but then think about, that 7-layer taco dip that is kind of my favorite thing at parties. You get that striation of flavor with the spicy at the top, and then you've got that amazing hummus underneath. Also, true to my Midwest roots, I have to admit, I love ranch dressing. I want to dip all of these vegetables in ranch dressing, and my partner and I have been doing this crazy cleanse diet where we're dairy-free and gluten-free, and ranch is just not on it. So I am going to be making a dip that is an alternative to ranch. I'm using cashew yogurt, which I've gotten very comfortable with recently. You could put this in your smoothies. It's vegan. I've got some of that. Now I am going to use real ranch seasoning, and I'm just going to, Todd's trying the yogurt over here. Let me know what you think.
I'm not sure if you didn't tell me it was cashew yogurt, I would.
It's not terrible. And it's one small adjustment.
We don't really like to talk about our wines like that, but.
I would never. Okay, so first of all, if you didn't make good wine, I wouldn't be here, Todd. So I'm going to add a little bit of this ranch seasoning. We're going to whisk it together. How's my bell pepper looking over there, Todd?
It's perfect. It's ready for us.
Great.
Would you like it?
I want it right in between these 2 green items.
Perfect.
Wow, you did such a good job, actually. You could have a new career, Todd.
I think so.
Chef, I don't think I've ever gone a day in my life without dairy. So some of these new kind of products out there on the market, I just don't understand.
I'll just clean dishes.
Perfect, thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
I don't really understand. I'm sorry for not knowing this, but I don't know what they are. So cashew milk yogurt is a completely dairy-free product.
Correct, dairy-free, vegan. Cashew milk, if you will, is where you take your cashews and you put them in a container, you fill it with water, and you use an immersion blender to break the cashews up, similar to making coconut milk.
And almond milk?
Same as almonds, because we all do this at home. So this January, I did a cleanse. By the way, comment in the chat if you've ever done this one. Dr. Kellyanne's bone broth cleanse, right? You fast 2 days and drink bone broth. You eat this crazy diet. I lost 10 pounds, but surprisingly, my arthritis pain was less. I slept just like I did before I had a baby. And so when we, finished it, we jumped off the wagon pretty hard, and again, stopped sleeping as well, stopped feeling as well. And so now my husband and I are doing kind of a hybrid. On the weekends, we get to have wine and cheese and model bakery baguettes, and during the week, we eat healthy. And so we're incorporating these kind of products like this cashew yogurt that we're using. I haven't found a cashew cheese that really does it for me. Let me know in the chat if you have found one. But we found making these kind of little pivots in our daily diet has really made a huge difference.
Does it have the kind of tanginess? Like, is it?
Again, I just put my finger in the bowl after the ranch dressing seasoning, and I wouldn't have known.
Huh.
Okay, so Liam, you are going to be our taste tester.
I've never had a cashew
this
milk
is
item.
Carrot and vegan ranch dip, and we'll see what you think. Try it with the wine. I find everything tastes better with a little bit of wine.
And is it a healthier alternative to normal dairies?
Absolutely, yeah. So you're going to get lower calories. You've got a little bit of protein because it's coming from nuts. And if you have any kind of sensitivity to lactose, this is a great alternative to be able to have those guilty pleasures, which, trust me, I need my ranch dressing sometimes. So for me, it works really, really well. So this is our crudite board. We're gonna jump into that stir fry, and you know, I'm so excited that we're moving into the Chardonnay because this is one of my favorite pairings with Asian food.
Dynamite.
You got that?
I got it.
Our next wine, if you're at home drinking, before we dive in on our next wine, guys, I want to just take a minute and check in with the group at home, make sure you're enjoying the show, and if there's any questions. Marissa, anything coming in from the group?
Yes, hi, thank you so much. So we have Linda, who rode with us this morning, said she had a great ride. First question is from Brett before we move on to Chardonnay. He's wondering if you should or can you age our sparkling wines?
Great, I can answer that one pretty good. Sparkling wine, think of it as two agings. We do the first aging for you, and that's the entourage part, the 3 to 4, 5, Lady Edith, 8 years. We do that aging for you, and it still has the yeast sediment in it. It's got a crown cap, much like a beer cap, and the pressure's in there, about 100 pounds per square inch of pressure is in there. And that yeast kind of acts as a preservative to where, and the CO2 in there prevents the oxidation, the crown cap, so it ages really, really well. Once we disgorge the wine, which is removing the yeast, you know, the riddling process, I'm sure we've talked about in other shows, the disgorgement, the yeast comes out and a cork goes in. Then I like to treat them like a classic white wine. So we hold them on their cork from anywhere from 3 to 6 months before we release it. So it's ready to go. But then I would hold it in your cellar, for example, 2, 3 years, 5 years maybe, at the most, like a classic white, versus like a classic Cabernet where you might want to put some aside for your child's graduation or a wedding anniversary or something. I would age them only about 5 years.
And what's the transformation that's going to take place in that time? Is there going to be
it's a slow oxidation, because once we take that crown cap off and open it up and get the yeast out, we're introducing oxygen again. And then the cork, too, can have some slow integration of oxygen. So, so we've done the best aging for it, and then it's up to you if you like them that way. More questions?
Thank you. So before we move on to the stir fry, some of our guests are really interested in the dip, looking forward to trying it, says Cindy McCurley. One of the questions is from Steve Walsh, Chef Christina. He wants to know, what are the other spices in the dairy-free ranch?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you, I am using a product. So while I'm using a dairy-free yogurt, I'm using Real Ranch seasoning. So I can read the ingredients and tell you. But usually...
Commercial break.
Yeah, commercial break. Usually it's going to be some kind of onion powder, onion salt, garlic powder, garlic salt, a little bit of dill. They're going to use some citric acid to kind of give it some balance. And then from there, you know, the sky's the limit. You can also add your own. You know, my husband likes everything spicy. So if you want to add a little bit of cayenne chili, espelette, any kind of smoked paprika, that can really bring up the flavor.
Our next wine is going to be the 2019 Carneros Chardonnay. But before we move on, I want to make sure everyone at home has been listening to Chef Christina and Todd. Let's ask a trivia question to the group. Marissa, do you have a good one so far?
I do. Okay, let's see who's been paying attention. Our first trivia question today, just please write your answer in the chat section and we'll be monitoring, and you can win a $100 gift card. So here we go. The question is, what is the French term for the period of time a sparkling wine has rested in the bottle in contact with the yeast sediment from the secondary fermentation? So I'm looking, all right. We have Dennis Sadomka and Tirage. Congratulations, Dennis. We will be sending you an email early next week, so thank you.
Congratulations, Dennis.
Cheers, Dennis. Great to have you on the broadcast today. Chef, are you set up? What do we have next?
Yes, I am ready. So we are going to be moving into doing this stir fry, and I think I've already told you that it's really easy. In fact, it's so easy. Todd's going to do it for me, and I'm going to supervise, which is my preferred role. I'll be over here tasting the wines for a change.
You have to talk about the Chardonnay.
Okay, perfect. I don't drink as much of your Chardonnay as I'd really like to, but I'm happy to talk about it. So we're going to get started here. I've got this pan. I'm going to turn it on, and while we talk about these ingredients, we're going to let the pan heat up. This is for you, by the way.
Thank you.
That's my favorite spoon. As you can tell, it's gotten some use. So you're gonna want to heat your pan over medium-high heat, and we're gonna use 2 different types of fat to get this started. We are making a chicken stir fry, but feel free if you wanna substitute shrimp. I know we're moving into some Cabernet eventually. With that one, I might use a steak or something that's got a little bit more flavor to it. So 2 fats that we're gonna be using is toasted sesame oil, and this adds a good amount of flavor to our stir fry, but it can be overpowering. I need a little bit more fat in order to cook the chicken. So I'm gonna be using coconut oil, which I hear, I mean, I'm not like a nutritionist or a scientist, but I hear it's healthier than, you know, butter or bacon fat. It also helps to keep this vegan. And the coconut oil will add a little bit of flavor, but I find it's really complementary for this stir fry. So as this pan heats up, we're gonna add about a teaspoon each of both of those fats. And then we're gonna start to do our chicken. It does feel like it's pretty hot. So there's a secret that I'm using to this stir fry. A lot of stir fries are soy-based, and you can get a gluten-free soy sauce, but I am going to cheat. So not only are we using coconut oil, but we're also going to be using a coconut amino garlic sauce, which is my new favorite secret ingredient. So coconut aminos are basically coconut sap that's been fermented, and just like wine, I love anything that is fermented. I'm checking your progress here. You did very well. You have the right amount of fat in there. And as we see, we've got a little bit of smoke going, so if you want to add the chicken.
I love this, that it's all prepared for us.
It works really well. This is actually, we're using one of my grandmother's lucite containers from the 1970s, which I think is perfect for doing a demo. So for this, we're going to be using chicken breast, and that's just a choice that I made, honestly, because Leslie, who I think is watching and should be having happy hour, Leslie, if you could let me know what you're drinking so I could live vicarious, that would be great. Leslie loves chicken breast. You can also use a boneless, skinless chicken thigh. As I said, shrimp or beef, just let it hang out there and cook a little bit. So we're not gonna add any salt. In fact, I don't even have salt with me, and that's because you're gonna get a lot of the flavor from this coconut amino. So our first step here is to let this saute, let this chicken cook, and in the meantime, shall we talk about the Chardonnay?
In the meantime, let's enjoy a little bit of our 2019 vintage Chardonnay. Todd, what are your thoughts on the Chardonnay?
Sure. So, as you know, Chardonnay is probably our largest single production wine. So we make more Chardonnay than anything else here at Frank Family. We're blessed that we source our fruit from Carneros, which again, same place as the sparkling wine, the coolest part of Napa Valley in the south. Rich and Leslie have 80 acres down in Carneros, right off the bay, basically. Beautiful vineyard called Lewis Vineyard there. And then we partner up with several great growers down there and farming families. On the Sonoma Carnero side, we partner up with the San Giacomos with a lot of our fruit. And then right next to Lewis is Andy Beckstoffer's vineyard, and we partner up with him. And then we have a lot of other small growers also to put this blend together. So all whole cluster pressed, and then taken to barrel as soon as possible, one night of settling, and then off to barrel for barrel fermentation. So we're going to get that richness, the acidity from the cool climate Chardonnay, and then the richness from the barrel fermentation. And much like sparkling wine, instead of aging on the yeast for 3+ years, this will age on the yeast for about 9 months, 10 months in the barrel. And we'll stir that up to keep that yeast in solution as much as we can, adding some more richness to it. And then, and it's all French oak. So 100% French oak, which about a third are new every vintage. So what we're looking for balance here, again, you'll get this nice tropical, some citrus notes from the fresh fruit, but then you also get the richness from the barrel fermentation, the yeast contact, and the time in barrel. And the French oak is a little more delicate, and you'll get a little spice there, maybe some vanilla.
Todd, when you talk about that barrel fermentation, you're talking about malolactic fermentation.
We're talking about primary fermentation first. So some of the Chardonnay goes through 2 fermentations. One's a yeast fermentation, and the other is a bacterial fermentation. So the primary fermentation, where the yeast converts the sugar to alcohol, gives off some CO2. The secondary fermentation, so that all the wine goes through that primary fermentation. The secondary fermentation, we choose to do that or not. Wines with high acidity, we'd like to, because it softens the wine. So it takes the acid from like a hard apple acid to a kind of a dairy acid, a lactic acid. So we're taking from malic to lactic, and it gives it a creamier, softer feel. And for that, if the wines have these great natural acidities, we might want to round that out a little bit. If they're naturally round already, then we'll avoid so we don't get them too flabby or soft.
So balance between the freshness of that apple acidity and then some of the richness of that other acid, that lactic
so we'll
acid.
make that decision based on the vineyard every year.
We've had a lot of people joining us today who are health nuts. The Peloton group, the exercise bike, the healthy living. Lactic acid, I know, is a term that we sometimes talk about in exercise in the way it develops in our bodies. Are there any similarities between what happens?
I'm going to have Christina take this one.
Wow. I thought I prefaced that I was not like a nutrition science, no idea what we're talking about.
I'll double the no idea.
All right. I just thought it was interesting. We talk about lactic acid sometimes in wine. We talk about lactic acid in our bodies.
Sure.
But very different.
I have no idea. Are there any exercise science majors out there that know the answer? Write into the chat and let us know, because clearly Todd and I are clueless.
I don't know.
And that's just generally speaking.
So let's go back to what I do know, which is cooking. I put our stir fry on pause over here because we are at a great step to move forward. So Todd, please take this.
Yes.
I told you were in charge. So what we've got going on, our chicken breast is cooked. And if you can see, it's got some brown spots. And Todd, I want you to move this to the outside of the pan. We're going to make a well in the middle for adding our aromatics. And you may be able to see that there's some bits here, brown bits stuck to the pan. Those are called fond. Again, French, it sounds so good. And that's flavor. Those are delicious. As we cook the vegetables, we're going to scrape the bottom of the pan to release those into our stir fry. So our aromatics that we're using today, we've got a little bit of hashayed garlic and ginger. Haché.
Thank you. What is haché?
Thank you for hachéing this for me. Haché is French for chopped up. Told you it sounds better in French. So I'm going to add this into the middle. Now, Todd, I want you to stir that just until it gets to be aromatic, until we can start to smell it. It's going to take about 15 more seconds. We're also going to add some chili flakes to it. And this is a choice that you can make when you're doing this stir fry. If you don't like heat, you can omit it. If you really enjoy spicy foods, add a little bit more. But because we're going to drink a little bit of Zinfandel with our stir fry, I thought it would be pretty. A little bit of the chili flake there. And now we're going to start to add our vegetables. So think about the vegetable choices that you're going to use. You can use whatever it is that you like. You can even buy like a stir-fry vegetable mix that's already done for you at the store. So we're adding a little bit of red onion, green onion, some red bell pepper, and we're going to add these in the order of which they cook. So these are going to cook the longest of all of our vegetables. And Todd, as you're doing that, I want you to scrape the fond off the bottom of the pan there. Get that flavor going.
Can I mix the chicken now too, or just leave it in the well still?
Leave the chicken on the outside. The chicken's
I
already
like
cooked.
how I'm in charge, but you're telling me everything to do.
Well, I mean, I am a woman, so what do you expect? So we're going to let these vegetables cook down a little bit before we add our sauce. Todd, you're doing such a good job. I love that Todd is doing this entire virtual tasting, all the cooking, describing all of the wine.
Yeah, all this, multitasking.
You are multitasking quite well. So let's move in and talk about the Zinfandel as they cook down, and then we'll move into our final step here with our stir fry.
Are we all done with Chardonnay?
I think we are. Does anybody have any questions about our Chardonnay, Marissa?
Perfect. We actually have some great comments and questions here. I'll just go through and read some of them. We have Aaron Luckett, who's joining us today. Aaron, we love having you on with us. Enjoy the ride this morning, and also looking forward to having some wine this afternoon. That's from Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, for tuning in. Cindy said, ride was great, celebrated number 600 with this group. That's fantastic. I'm not there yet, but great job, Cindy, thank you. Let's see. Brett says the ride this morning was a lot of fun. Now time to put those calories back on with wine. We're right there with you, Brett. And then a couple questions. So one question was from Denise. She wants to know, are all your wine grapes from your property? And then one other question before I turn it back over to you guys. We had, sorry, let me just find it. Jeff says that he says, hi guys, Jeff here, AKA Pedal Flash Tear on Peloton. Loved the ride today too. Excited for my Steak and Frank family cab sauv tonight. He's up here in Canada and he wants to know if any of the wines will be available there soon. So I'll bring it back over to you guys.
Okay, so the first question that I remember anyway is our fruit 100% estate? No, we're about 50-50, 60-40 maybe. So 50% that we do own and control, and then 50% that we purchase from professional farmers and growers. So that gives us a lot of flexibility to grow if we want, make up to for Mother Nature's big years or little years. So keeps a lot of flexibility. So that's pretty standard for us, is around that 50-50 rule. And then as far as Canada, what province are we talking about? I know we are in Canada a little bit here and there. And maybe Leslie and Rich can type in if they're watching exactly where.
Our proprietor of Frank Family Vineyards, Leslie Frank, originally from Toronto, Canada. So Canada's an important market for us. If you'd like to call the winery on Monday, I have a list of all of our distribution in Canada, and I can help you find in your province where that wine can be bought, and I'm happy to help you with that. Zinfandel, Todd, this is one of those wines that we have partnerships in terms of growing.
Great, and this is our Chiles Valley Zinfandel. So most of you know our Napa Valley Zin, which is a blend of Zinfandel from St. Helena, Calistoga, Capel Valley, Chiles Valley, all around. This, we're going right into Chiles Valley. So a little finer location. It comes from basically one ranch owned by two families. The Nicolini family that people have here with history in Napa Valley. The Nicolinis have been here for generations. And the cousins, the Sinceri family, split up this vineyard and co-own it, I guess the best way to say. So some blocks are owned by the Nicolinis, some by the Sinceris, and I work with both families and have been for, I don't know, a long time. But it's been a great relationship. We've been bottling this wine every year with that relationship. Chiles Valley is a little east of Napa Valley proper, so we're in Rutherford right now, and you just take Highway 128 up like you're going to Berryessa, and about halfway, so about 15 minutes from here to the east is Chiles Valley, a little small valley, and it specializes in Zinfandel. This one's great. This is the 17 Zinfandel. Typically with Zinfandel, you hear a lot of black pepper notes and things like that in the aromatics. Again, we're a little unusual probably in that we age all our Zin in French oak too. So I think it gives us a little more classic style and a little bit more delicate treatment. We have a lot of open top tanks, so we'll do some open top fermentations with these two and punch downs versus pump overs, so we can treat the wine very delicate. Zinfandel on its own is not a really super dark grape. When you see a really, really black Zinfandel, it usually has some other varieties blended in it. It could be a field blend or the winemaker's choice. And we do a little Petite Syrah in this. We grow the Petite Syrah out at S&J Vineyard, and we'll put 5 to 10% in there, usually somewhere around that. I don't want it to become a Petite Syrah. I still want to keep the typicity of the Zinfandel, but it adds, much like the Chardonnay and the sparkling wine, it'll add a little backbone and a little concentration, a little color to the wine.
Rich Frank is always a huge fan of pairing Zinfandel with barbecue. Todd, what do you love to pair Zin with? When you're drinking a bottle of Zin, what are you thinking about on the table?
You know, pork's pretty good. Pork is great, and on the grill is fantastic. Anything, but you know, obviously pork baby backs are pretty dang good with Zinfandel. Is a classic, but it can go with everything. I mean, Zinfandel would be a great Thanksgiving wine too, because you have the stuffing, you have the cranberry, you have the poultry, but it's, you know, dark meat poultry. Can handle this.
Chef Christina, we drank some Zinfandel in preparation for Thanksgiving last year on our broadcast. It was dynamite with that giant bird you cooked. That was delicious. I think we were eating that for a few days after that.
Well, 18 pounds was the smallest turkey I could find. But, I love Zinfandel in general. Let me rewind, which probably dates me actually using that word. But
rewind.
I like really good Zinfandel. I find a lot of them can have a little bit of residual sugar, which I tend to be really sensitive to. They can kind of taste like that strawberry candy, which I'm not into. And I love Frank Family's Zinfandel because you get all of the great pairing flexibility, but I still feel like it has the refinement of a Cabernet and some nuances in there that I love. So last night I did chicken Parmesan. I didn't have a Sangiovese, which Liam tells me he could help me out with. Very excited. I paired it with the Zinfandel. While you were describing it, I tried just this coconut amino alone with the Zinfandel. And, I feel like a lot of Asian flavors can be so difficult to pair with wines, especially Napa Valley wines. And what was great was that I could still taste all the flavor and nuances of the sauce, but the Zinfandel stood up to it structurally, and it didn't change. So it was really kind of fun for me as a chef to play with it.
What I like about our Zin too is we're not trying to make the highest alcohol Zin. I mean, it's warm. It's under 15, excuse me. So it's high 14s, which is not a light wine, but we're not trying to get into the 16, 17 that would overpower a dish like this. And it would be the meal. This is to accompany the meal. And what you said with the pastas too, that's another great, Zinfandel and red pastas, yes. Pasta sauce, marinara sauces, fantastic.
It was perfect. So I think we're ready to move.
Oh, time to go to work.
Yes, hurry.
Todd's getting back to work.
Oh, we have to have good balance, right? So what you missed was that Todd cooked down our onions, our red onions, our green onions, our bell pepper. And as we were talking, cooking live can be kind of a challenge, right? Because I don't have the same timing that I would in the kitchen. And so we had that beautiful fond that was starting to build up on the bottom of the pan, but it was starting to go from golden to a little tan to a place I didn't like, right? So in order to save our stir fry, I added another French ingredient. I feel like this should be a French class, right?
It could. And what would you call this in French?
So we added a little fond de fossé, which, by the way, if you actually speak French, I don't, so I'm probably not pronouncing these, or I might have made all these words up. But fond, as we talk about flavor, this would be fond de fossé, flavor from the faucet. So I added a little water to our stir fry, and that loosened that fond up off the bottom and prevented it from burning. So if you could grab your spoon, please.
Chef, we're drinking wine, we're cooking.
Yes.
Could you have used a fond de fossé? Le fond de fossé.
Le fond
Could it
du
have
vin.
been le fond du vin? Could you have used wine, or would that would have just kind of would that have gotten in? Because I hear about cooking with wine. I'm not the best chef, but I never do it because I'm nervous.
You can absolutely use wine. Given the wines that we have here, I might have gone with the sparkling wine. I would have shied away.
Acid and a little acid. Yeah,
the Chardonnay, because it has the French oak, which, by the way, makes it delicious in the glass. Maybe not the best to cook with because that barrel flavor is going to come through. So we added the first part of our vegetables, the ones that are going to cook the longest. Now we're on to the final vegetables here. So I've got some of these yellow carrots. We've got some zucchini, some yellow squash, and then we're going to add some of those sugar snap peas that we used on our crudite platter as well. So we're going to add these in here, and we're going to add our sauce as well and let this simmer and finish cooking. So when you're doing this at home, you can use any vegetable combination that you like, whatever you happen to have in your fridge.
Notice the measuring cups on all of them.
I'm sorry, you want to use about 3 tablespoons. I'll tell you when we're there. And if, by the way, you use too much sauce, just reduce it down. So we're going to add this in here. See how hard this is? I worked so hard to make this stir fry for you.
Can you talk about the deglazing again? Because on all kinds of cooking, how cool that sauce is that you can make from the deglazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that stuff that gets stuck at the bottom of your pan is like liquid gold. It's got so much flavor to it. So you might have seen at the beginning of our demonstration, we added the raw chicken and Todd's like stirring it around and it's getting stuck, and I'm like, stop, Todd,
Yeah.
just let it go.
You said that out loud, actually.
Yeah, well, sorry about that. So the reason why I had him stop doing that is because as the chicken starts to cook, it will naturally release from the pan, because we added that coconut oil and a little bit of the sesame oil.
It said stir fry.
Yeah, you could just let it go, let it simmer, and do its wonderful thing. So any kind of food that you're going to saute like this is going to build up some fond in the bottom of your pan, and as long as you don't burn it, you've got flavor. So like when I'm building, say, a pasta sauce, when I'm making chicken stock, when I'm making this stir fry, you've got this fond, and then you need to get it off the pan, and moisture is what's going to release it. So a lot of times just adding the onions and letting the moisture cook out of them is going to release the fond. In this case, we cheated and we used our fond de fossé, our Napa Valley tap water. You can also use wine, and that's honestly probably my favorite way of releasing that. So I'm really excited as this starts to come together. Our last step here is to let this kind of reduce down so it kind of congeals and comes together as a sauce. So now that I can see our snap peas are starting to get cooked, I want you to move all the ingredients off to the side. Again, that's going to allow our simmer sauce to kind of pool in the middle, allow it to reduce and get down to the right consistency. And this is a technique that I'll use for a lot of different applications. If I'm making any kind of a soup or a stock, when I saute my mirepoix, I am going to salt it and try to cook the water out of it in order to concentrate the flavor. And so once it gets to the right consistency, when it's translucent, you can move it to the side of your pan. The water from the vegetables will move towards the center, and you can let it reduce down to the right consistency.
While that's reducing down, guys, I'd love to check in with the crew at home, make sure everyone's enjoying our broadcast and paying attention. I think we have a trivia question to ask, and remember, the correct answer for this trivia question awards you a $100 gift certificate from Frank Family Vineyards. Marissa?
Yes, before we get to that, I do want to read a couple of comments because we have a lot of Childs Valley Zin fans at home. So Aaron Luckett says Childs Valley Zin is the best, all caps. Krista says, adore the Childs Valley Zin, it's amazing. Cindy says, I've never had the Zin till today, it's delicious. We do have another question for about the Zin, but I'll get to that in a moment. Let me ask you guys at home your second trivia question first. And this is about our Childs Valley Zinfandel. So we want to know, in the chat section, let us know what are the names of the two families we source fruit from in the Childs Valley that make up our Childs Valley Zinfandel. We're looking for the first correct answer. And
you need to be present to win.
You need to be present to win, and try your best with spelling. Okay, we're getting close. Okay, so Ronnie Bevan, correct. Nicolini and Sinceri, congratulations. We will be sending you a gift card via email next week. Let me just go back to that one question. If you can answer, guys, Brett's wondering if we make a lot of Zinfandel. He seems, it seems that in general is far less available due to, but the cabs are more in demand. Can you comment on if we make a lot of Zinfandel? And somebody else did mention too about he commended us for having more Zinfandel planted because there is that tendency to rip up a lot of Zinfandel vines in favor of Cabernet. So any comments on that?
Sure. Zinfandel's one of our smaller production wines, so you're correct there when you see the Chardonnay and the Cabernet much more readily available. But and it's become an economic decision in Napa Valley proper, as again, we're in Rutherford, Oakville's to the south, St. Helena north. The Napa Valley proper, the corridor, has really become Cabernet centric. And so it's harder to find these older Zinfandel vines or even new plantings of Zinfandel. But that's why we went out to Childs Valley, because they've done it really well. You'll see some other Childs Valley Zins out there in the market that are pretty delicious. And then we planted some out at our S&J vineyard also. So we're developing it a little, but we probably make 25% of the Zinfandel compared to the Cab and the Chardonnay. So it is a lot less readily available for you. So there's an opportunity to grab it. It's always available at the tasting room, just a little harder to find. And what I like in Zinfandel too is when you're out dining in restaurants, which I hope we're all going to be doing soon, you know, it's hard to find a good Cabernet under $100 with your meal. And all of a sudden that puts you in a different, if it's a Wednesday night and you're just going out for a meal and you're throwing $100 down for a couple glasses of wine, it elevates that meal pretty quick. But Zin, you can usually get in that $50 to $60 range. And again, we were talking about, you know, go to a great pasta or some pork, and it's a great restaurant wine. So try it there.
If you're having trouble finding any of Frank Family Vineyards wines at your local market, at your wine shop, please visit frankfamilyvineyards.com. Our website has a full list of the wines that we make, Todd's incredible portfolio of wine. You can always find them right there, frankfamilyvineyards.com, or if you like, just call me at the winery. I'm there all week long.
I love that. So we are going to be finishing up our stir fry here, and our next wine is Cabernet. And you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, chicken stir fry and Cabernet. You know, unless you're that person that drinks Cabernet with everything, you're probably thinking, I mean, that's not a normal pairing. So I'm going to show you a little kind of trick that I use in order to pair foods with more tannic wines. So Todd, again, I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need you with a knife. So I brought in some limes. They're not just for my cocktails later, but I'm going to have Todd.
I'm in charge here. She'll tell me I'm in charge.
Wait for the instruction. There's a finesse and a technique to this. So we're going to cut some limes.
I'm going to give you a heart attack here.
This is why we didn't let Liam help. I can't take over you.
Thank God. Thank goodness.
So one thing I really wanted to talk about as we go to cut, because you almost did exactly what everybody else does with around food. So as a young chef, there were lots of lessons I had to learn, but one was to figure out how to cut around food. And for some reason, when it's round, it gets really confusing. So you have to turn it into a shape that you know. So inside of a lime, you've got that pit, right, that core, and then that's not good. So we want to cut that out, but we want to save as much of the flesh because we want to use the lime juice. So what I want you to start with is cut off both of the ends.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm going to do this with any kind of round produce that I'm working with, whether it's bell pepper or a zucchini or an onion. I'm going to cut the ends off first. Now you're going to love this later when you have your gin and tonic, because you're going to get so much more juice and flavor out of this lime. So rather than cutting it...
Sorry to interrupt. What about, do you ever roll it and push it down and get the juices released? Give it a massage. Kobe lime.
I like the dancing that kind of goes with
Yeah.
that.
Kobe lime.
I do that with my pomegranates, but not necessarily with my limes. So what we're going to do is, most people would cut down the center, right? But then you get that pith that's what we don't want. So we're going to cut just adjacent to that.
Like how I'm doing all the work.
Oh yeah, sorry, just watch. If you can't tell, I tend to be a little type A. Okay, now here, you get to have this. This is that core we didn't.
That's not the good part.
I get to chew on this.
Enjoy that. That's the part we didn't want. So now we've got these beautiful lime wedges. These go in our cocktails later.
They are much better looking than the ones I would have
And this I'm going to be able to squeeze and get so much juice out of it. So I'm going to tell you that I was a chef for like 15 years before somebody showed it to me, and it works so much better. So you may have this. We're going to go back to our stir fry. We're at the final step. So while we were enjoying that Zinfandel, we were watching our stir fry, and we were reducing the sauce. So essentially we're cooking a lot of the water out of it. So I was watching the bubbles as they go. And as we start to reduce the sauce, the bubbles are going to be big and they're fast as the water is steaming. As it starts to reduce down to the right consistency, the bubbles get smaller and they get slower, and you might be able to see they're starting to do that now. That's when you know that it's going to have kind of a syrupy consistency and really coat all of your ingredients. Now, Todd, what I want you to do is take both of those lime wedges that we did, squeeze them right into the pan. The whole
same
thing.
time, left and right handed?
All of that acid. Both hands, same time. Good job.
Good coordination.
Your hands
got
are
it all.
smell so nice.
I'm
now.
amphibious. I can do things with both hands.
Amphibious? I like it. Yeah. And we're going to add that in. So We did this to add a little flavor, to boost our sauce, and most importantly, we're adding acid. And acid is your friend when you're pairing foods that don't necessarily go with Cabernet. So let's say you want to grill halibut this weekend. You're thinking, oh, fish, I gotta have a white wine. It's totally not true. Squeeze a little lemon on your halibut, and it's gonna make a world of wonders. So now that we're done with this,
I'm exhausted.
I know.
You're ready to eat.
It's time for us to relax.
What about a glass of Cabernet?
I think we've earned it, don't you? I'm gonna plate our stir fry. Let's get into this Cabernet.
But one of the things I loved about what you said earlier, Chef, is that this stir fry does give the at-home chef so many options, so many lefts instead of rights, so many ups instead of downs. We did this, or you did this, you and Todd, with chicken. But you could do it with a meatier cut as well. You could use beef, you could use pork, you could do so many different things.
Absolutely. And, you know, naturally pairing with this Cabernet, I would consider using a beef, like a skirt steak,
Yeah.
or even if you really kind of wanted to get into that fusion. I don't know why, but this year I'm incorporating a lot of Latin flavors into the foods that I'm cooking. So I would say that you could go to the Mexican market and get that carne asada that's already marinated and flavorful, and use that as your base as well in order to really heighten the flavor. So we've got our stir fry here. It's plated here on the platter. We've got some of this delicious sauce. I'm gonna finish it off with a little cilantro. I love cilantro, by the way. You can chop it if you want to mix it in. You can just place it on top. If you want to add a little crunch, you could use peanuts, cashews, even some pepitas to keep with that Latin flavor. And Todd, I am remiss, I didn't bring you chopsticks, but I've got the next best thing. I always have my tweezers.
Oh, cool.
So as we get into the Cabernet, I'm interested to see what you think of this pairing.
You want to do that before I do
No,
this?
We could let Liam do the wine, and you and I could sit over here and have lunch.
Can we share chopsticks?
I have a spoon.
Delicious.
To pair with the stir fry at this point, we're going to be drinking Frank Family's 2017 vintage Napa Valley Cabernet, a wine that we have been loving here at the winery all year in 2021. Todd,
Sure.
How does it pair well?
Great. Well, so the Napa Cab, obviously, again, we talk about when we say Napa Valley Cab, we're picking it from northern Napa all the way to Calistoga. So if you've been here, you know the Napa Valley is 30 some odd miles long, a few miles wide at the most. So you come up from North Napa. We have a little Merlot in there. That's where the North Napa comes in, and we come through. We have two ranches in Rutherford where we're located right now. We're on Winston Hill. That goes into the Winston Hill and the RHF. And our Benjamin is a good foundation of the Napa Valley Cab, which is right across the road, basically. And then we also own S&J up in the hills on the eastern flank of Atlas Peak. And that's the other foundation for that. So those make, and then we have a lot of growers, a lot of Rutherford fruit in here, but again, up to Calistoga, some St. Helena, northern Napa. So it's a blend of vineyards, all French oak again, about a third new every vintage. 2017 was the year of the first fires that we've had. You know, the elephant in the room type. We decided not to bottle anything after October 8th, when the night of the fires. So everything for this wine was picked before October 8th, meaning we left a lot of fruit behind in 2017. So you can get that. You can get the vanilla, the spice, and the caramel from the barrels in here. More red and black fruits into the Cabernet.
One of the things I love about this Cabernet, Todd, is just how supple it feels across the palate. It's not brawny. It has a real almost fluidity about it. It feels very smooth in that sense.
I think you'll see that as our family style with all our wine. It can't be any more different than sparkling and Cabernet, but they have that balance and that length. They have texture. They have structure. But they're not over the top in any way at all. And I think that's where you and I come into business, because I don't want to dominate your meal. I want to accompany your meal, not dominate the meal. And I think Frank Family wines are really well balanced, and that's a family style that we have through all varietals.
I love that. I love that. No, I actually think so. You know, Asian food is not my specialty. I was trained in French and Italian, but I let Liam sneak over and try it, and
I think it's delicious.
Tastes like stir fry.
No, it's fabulous, Chef. It really is. Great flavors, great balance. No one component kind of outshining everybody else. I would say, Todd, similar to the way you approach the winemaking. Mm-hmm. Balance is key. Balance is key in life, in food, in wine. I'm going to get philosophical here.
No, I'm just jealous. We don't get to use a lot of knives in winemaking.
We don't. That's one thing he's missing. No, great balance. Great balance in the food.
I mean, I've seen the equipment. Todd said I owe him a harvest, and I was a harvest intern once. In 2017 of all years, I told him I was the world's worst harvest intern. I fired myself and hired my replacement. So there's plenty of dangerous things in winemaking.
There is.
I'm not sure, Todd, if what you did today is going to be a rough equivalent to what you would ask for a harvest intern.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
I will say I'm happy to cook harvest lunch. I'm well qualified to do that.
Oh, hold on, I'm recording this. Yeah.
I think we'll take you up on that. I do want to touch base with our viewers at home. We have a third trivia question that we do want to ask, and also any questions coming from the chat. Marissa?
Well, we do have Rich and Leslie Frank who are tuning in from the East Coast today, and Rich just said Chef Christina has made this dish for Leslie and me many times and is one of our favorites. It's also great with shrimp. So we also have a lot of guests talking about the ride and how they had such a great time today. I do want to launch a poll before we get into the last trivia question. I have a poll for everyone because we love these rides and we want to see if you're loving them too. And so we have about 5 questions for you guys to answer. So I'm going to launch that right now, and we will we'll have it up for you guys to answer for a couple minutes. And while that's live, I also have our last trivia question of the day. So the last question is, coconut aminos is a delicious and healthy alternative to soy sauce, and we want to know what is it made from? So we're looking in the chat section for the answer. Okay. We have coconut sap fermented from Mari Craven. Congratulations, Mari. We will be sending you a gift certificate. So thank you. I'm going to just let the poll go for a couple more minutes if you guys want to just say a couple more words.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Mari. That was a tough one, and you got the answer. This food has been fabulous. The wines have been fabulous today as well. And we're just so happy to be welcoming those joining us from the Peloton community who maybe haven't enjoyed a glass of Frank Family Wines with us before. Thank you so much. If these are wines that you enjoyed today and you'd like to enjoy them again, on Monday, we'll be sending out an email to all participants of today's ride and today's tasting, offering a special savings opportunity through our online store to enjoy our Napa Tier wines, our Brut Rosé, and our Childs Valley Zinfandel, to enjoy all these wines at a 15% savings from retail. So keep your eyes on your inbox for that invitation to save on Monday morning. Also, friends, those of you in the Wine Club, on Tuesday, April 27th, we'll be doing a wine club happy hour tasting of the new wines in the spring shipment. That means our San Giacomo Chardonnay, our Lewis Vineyard Chardonnay, our Sangiovese wine, which Chef mentioned earlier today, one of those wine club member exclusive wines. We'll be tasting and talking about those wines. Again, that's going to be Tuesday, April 27th, and we hope to see you there. If you're watching this and you're not a club member with us yet, please reach out to us at frankfamilyvineyards.com or call the winery and we can tell you a little bit more about all the benefits that come with our wine club membership.
Chef, thank you.
Wow. Well, Todd, thank you. I feel like I should call you Chef. You did most of the
Chef.
heavy lifting today.
A new title, but a worthy title for you,
I'm exhausted.
Chef Todd.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to enjoy these wines, to enjoy the stir fry. If you're doing this at home, I think oftentimes you're going to serve a stir fry over rice. And for those of us that are making slight pivots into a healthier lifestyle, Todd, I got you some right rice for later. This is not rice. It's a product that's made from vegetables. It's got fiber, it has protein, it has less carbs, and it tastes good, which is the most important part. So since I already made you dinner, you've got another little project for later.
Very cool.
Enjoy. So if there's any last questions, definitely let me know. And this has been really fun for me to sort of pivot out of my comfort zone and not use any of the crutches like butter that make things taste delicious on their own. So.
Well, without those crutches, Chef, this is a fabulous meal and a healthy, wonderful meal that I know so many people will enjoy making at home.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just ended our poll. We had 85% of you answer, so I'm just going to read them real quick just to share the results. First question was, is this your first time attending a Frank Family virtual tasting? We had 58% of you said yes, loving it. 42% of you said this is your first time tuning in, that you've tuned in before. We've asked, second question is, what did you think of this morning's Peloton ride? 4% thought it was too challenging. 58% thought it was just right, which is great. And 30% that you're just here, that you did not attend the group ride this morning. So for everyone who joined us this morning, thank you. We're glad that you thought it was great. Third question, would you like to see new Peloton instructors in our group ride mix? Because we want to keep things interesting and entertaining for you. Okay, this is, everyone's kind of got their own favorite instructor. We're seeing 15% want to see Robin, 27% said Alex, 10% for Sam Yo, 27% would like to see Cody Rigsby, and then 54% of you said no preference, I'm just here for the wine.
Count me as a absolutely.
All right, and then we also asked about the genre of music you like for next time. 50% of you said let's just stick with the rock. So Todd, I think we're going to stick with it with your favorite
that's
too.
my decision anyway, so I don't even know why that's a question.
All right, and then our last question of the day: are you enjoying our Ride and Wine Peloton series, and do you want to see more? We had 92% of you said yes, 100% yes, and 8% said not really. Let's try something new. Well, you're in luck. We're very excited to be announcing our new virtual tastings and hopefully in-person events that will be coming this spring and summer. So thank you all.
Fabulous, Marissa. Thank you. And thank you to all of you at home for joining us today, this beautiful day, springtime here in Napa, my favorite time of year as we come back to life, come out of winter. Napa Valley is open. We're seeing guests at the tasting room in Frank Family Vineyards. Every day is exciting, and every day as we move from spring into summer brings more and more of our fans, our guests to the property, and I'll be there, and Todd will be there, and we're both really looking forward to seeing you in person at Frank Family Vineyards. Until that time comes, please continue to join us in our virtual tasting series and keep enjoying those wonderful Frank Family wines. Thank you, Todd Graff, Frank Family Vineyards General Manager and Winemaker, and Chef Christina Mackimer, our favorite chef here in Napa Valley. Thank you both for joining us today. Cheers to you all, and be well.
Cheers. Have a great weekend.